Oh, just as I go to start the game for the stream. It's been so long since we last streamed and played this that I'm actually having to wait for the game to update and download new content first. Onyx, stop biting the computer! But good morning, folks. Yes, this is new apartment now. Onyx, come on. If you got a T, not on the expensive monitor, baby. Come here. Come here, Onyx. Come here. No? He is. Say hi, Onyx. But yeah, that's where I've been for the past week or so. It's been so busy too. Getting all this set up, inspections having to do, the entire chore of moving house over still isn't done. The room is, I don't mind showing it, an absolute mess right now. Not to mention bare walls and everything. And hello, crushing ceiling. Thank you so much for the phenomenal blessings. It's kind of a mixed bag because this property management company is very blatantly predatory. But I get to live with the man I love and his cat. We've been making lots of cool progress on getting the house furnished, getting some plants in, planning out where we're going to put, planning out even the next place after this, which is pretty exciting. It's not just moving in with my XBF, but also moving in with the XBF and deciding, okay, for the next place, let's try looking for this and that. 49% on updating the game. You would think that after all this time, I would have the foresight to see if the game has an update before launching it a week after playing it. But man, it is expensive moving house, not just the cost and the fees for all this, but just furnishing it? Holy heck. 61, 62%, almost two-thirds through. So, while we wait for this game to update, it might have been a week since I last played. The place is so new. I don't actually have a chair for it yet. This is Fennec's chair that I'm stealing from his room behind me. Don't tell him. This is our secret. Gotten to the point of the game where I'm pretty sure that it is the final chapter. Because a previous chapter was Shen himself going on trial for the murder of Song Tao, who was an associate of him and his brother back in London, and now operates, or used to, now that he's dead, operates a foreign goods store in Shanghai. Now that we finally made our way down the Yangtze River to Shanghai, where Joseph awaits us. 86%. But while I thought that was going to be one penultimate trial and then final boss trial, Shen was like, no, I got my acquittal, but we're not done yet. We have to see the truth that goes back 3 years. So this, I'm pretty sure, is going to be the finale, and they better make a big fight out of it. If it turns out that it's going to be like a 1 hour mission that we could have done 1 week ago. Because it is like a whole 3 year in the making trial. It's the brother's murder from 3 years ago, closed room mystery. They're completely ignoring the fact that the design of the door is one that you could lock from the inside and then close from the outside. Apparently, that's just art that doesn't exist in the game. Okay, finally up. Some tech check. Cool thing about the tech check. Unfortunately, I couldn't get Sonic fiber optic internet here. They don't have it accessible for this apartment block yet, and I don't run the property, so I can't authorize them to start drilling and digging up holes to put the fiber optic cables, so we're stuck on Comcast. But it's so much better than the Comcast I had before. Longtime viewers might remember that back in the previous place, 11 megabytes up was a good day. Today I get 100. It's like night and day now. What's this? Number of excellent works, including the Ace... Oh, they learned about the Ace Attorney series. Highest tribute to these works and their creators. Aw, that's pretty cool. A developer's message saying, hey, if you love our murder mystery, you'd love all these. Danganronpa Kirigiri. Diamond and the Sound of a Gunshot. Never heard of that game. So, the Shanghai Enigma. So, in the flashback dream, we've learned of a few interesting possibilities for mechanisms that could have contributed to the locked room mystery, using the phonograph player and the Morse code reel to weave the key under the door to my brother's hand, and wow, reel goes elsewhere. And for the murder itself, it turns out that they could have used a paper lantern to go into the skybox, combust itself, the knife falls down, pierces my brother in the chest, and unfortunately, there's doubt on that because they tried to repeat the experiment over and over again, and they failed to get the knife through each time. But there was always this lingering thing throughout the game where my brother was contorted like this, and that is most seen in cases of strychnine, where it causes paralysis of the muscles and all that, right? But they did a toxicology report, and strychnine never came in. But we have recently learned in this previous case that Sung Tao was looking at research of a type of extract that is remarkably similar to the effects of strychnine poisoning. But does not come up in a strychnine toxicology report. So we have a possible method for explaining the contorted form of my brother. And I still firmly believe that it was Joseph Iscariot Bell who did the deed. His name is already super suspicious. Also some complot that I made. Fennec is a really short boy, 5'0" even. So I keep having to adjust his seat to be higher. Short boy, but I love him. All his height went to his booty.
何必装出一副努力查案的样子？你心里清楚得很，吴松涛一死，前面的努力又都白费了。
Stone Wu, it says in the text, but then the voice says Song Tao. For a brief period of time, when the devs localized this to English, they first gave everybody English names because they thought that Western players would be confused if everyone didn't have generic white names. But how the game works in general is that if they're Chinese ethnic nationals speaking to other ethnic Chinese nationals, they'll use their real names. But if they're in London speaking to Londoners, they'll use a Western name that they've adopted for themselves to make it easier for them. In some places, it feels like they were just like copy pasting through the, or control Fing through the spreadsheet and correcting. Oh man. What was it? Was it the previous stream or the one before that? Where there should have been a word, but the word had a name in the middle. Like in the middle of the word itself, because it had the characters, the letters for that name, and they just changed it over. Like, Afu, I think, got called Frankie in that brief period of time. So in certain chapters, when you look at certain evidences, it'll say Frankie said this. It's like, who's Frankie? Because they like missed a few places here and there. I think for characters like Song Tao and Shen's brother, they kept them as like Stone or Brian because they primarily exist in the London parts or associate with the London parts. But for Sung Tao, he's also here in Shanghai. I never did learn my brother's actual name.
我说过，
Because I keep missing when they
这
say
件
it.
事不用你管。你浪费了3年时间，现在弄得自己身陷囹圄，却还在嘴硬。
Face reality, John. The one who killed your brother was himself.
Young man, I'll say this one last time. Your brother has recent bruising on the fingertips.
That matches the scratching on the chair. Keep up, Officer Gaunt. Now, I am glad that I saved where I did, because this is actually going to be a fantastic catch-up for where we were like 2 weeks ago by now.
Similarly, there are fresh scratches on the chair legs where he was sitting.
Yeah, so he couldn't have done the
This
stabbing himself.
indicates that he was still conscious shortly before his death.
But
even with your suggested method, a conscious person awaiting death from a falling dagger
He was
should
paralyzed.
still be considered a suicide.
We had the coroner re-examine the body, and there were no signs of localized anesthesia.
Because you don't have the right autopsy report. You don't have the right toxicology. You didn't know. You didn't know about this cutting
My
edge
parents
research.
passed away early. My brother took care of me as I grew up.
Fantastic place to save the game and restart on, since it's not just catching us up on Brian's murder from 3 years ago, but also catching us up on the whole meta plot of the game.
I know he was incredibly resilient. No matter the challenges, he would never give up on life.
John, I understand your feelings. Everyone's done their best, be it you or us.
What's really cool about this game, right? This is, of course, a Chinese language game made for the Chinese nation's gaming market. But it's so well put together, right? It's not just all the research when you look into like the facts and knowledge part of what you pick up here and there. It's a very well researched game. But like sometimes you play like a Korean game or a Japanese game or even a Chinese game, and if it does have English parts, it won't always be the best. Let's recall Bryce from Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. But here, the English is phenomenal. The English is just as good as the native Chinese language speakers. And not just like a English voice, but they got different accents too. Different accents. And not just like, oh ye Scrooge McDuck, we canna do they. It's like accurate to the accent in most times.
Please sign here.
So like the native English speakers are pretty cool as far as like the fidelity of it, but also like the Chinese characters code switching to English is also very cool too and very funny at times. Cause like what the landlady says and how she says things to Shen is different than how she says things and what she says to the police officers.
Sign it or not. The body's preservation period is up. He will be cleared from the cold storage tomorrow.
Aye. Sign away, John. It's time to look forward.
后来，你被迫签了字，但也暗下决心要找到凶手。
Had no choice but to sign it, had to bring his brother home.
你往返于中英两地，收集一切与案件有关的蛛丝马迹。
And this is like
你深度
little bit
调
of
查
animation
案件
there.
中提及的每一个人，以及每一个与他们有关的人。你甚至针对每个人都制定了详尽的复仇计划，就仿佛他们都
for
是
each person? Did he actually develop on his own possible motives for Joseph Iscariot Bell, or for his father, the the pharmacist company magnate Bell.
你收集的资料堆满了整个房间，已经无法带在身边。于是，你记住了所有的细节，
All
放
details
在脑
in
海内
his mind.
交叉比对，而这一切已经超过了你的大脑所能处理的极限。
Can't pierce gowns at their end.
努力了3年都没有结果。
Oh, is it at the end of the crossbow's life that even the strongest crossbow, if it's worn out, can't even pierce a gown?
你有没有想过，你想要证明的东西，也许根本就是错的？
No, nonsense. We got faith in our brother.
我知道，那些大夫都说你再也不可能说话了，但哥哥不会放弃。
And all he had to do was pull on his tongue.
不，是你把问题想得太简单了。哥哥的命案现场与《藻井之殇》里的描述如出一辙，这绝不是巧合，而是模仿杀人。凶手是知道小说内容的人。哼，真是撞到了南墙也不回头。你连作者沟辰居士是谁都不知道，还想找其他人？
Sinosura is
我怎
either
么不知道
Brian
沟
himself
辰居士就是
or Joseph.
吴松涛吗？
Not Song Tao, he denied it.
拿我寻开心呐！我哪里会写不可呀？
吴松涛，看上去确实不像会写小说之人。哦，
Sorry, Onyx, I got too much
Go
stuff
Chen
cluttering,
Ju
don't
Shi
I? Here. If you want, Onyx. Who do I think Sinosura is? Now, all we know about Sinosura is that he wrote a book, right? He wrote a manuscript about a murder that heavily matched the murder of Brian, but localized to a Chinese setting. Or flipped the script, wrote the original pattern of the murder that was then localized to London. I think it's one of these two. The question is, was Joseph in China wait. Would have been like 7 years by now, right? Because the book was written well before the murder took place. I don't think Joseph Iscariot Bell was in China at that time. I think that he was still in Britain. I think it was my brother who wrote the story, and then he went to England to pursue his studies, shared the details of the story, like, yeah, I used to write, and then dead. He wrote the details of his own murder, not knowing it was going to be his murder.
直觉告诉我，哥哥才是《藻井之殇》的作者。你就是凭直觉成为侦探的，我为何会这么想？
I have logic
似乎
to
有一
it.
件物品表明，哥哥符合《藻井之殇》作者的
Evidence that suggests the book was written by Brian. The Big Dipper? Brian was very big on the Big Dipper. Maybe the book itself is missing. Maybe the original copy that he wrote has been taken away. The sky lantern? Brian knew how to make sky lanterns. Seven-star lamp. Kong Ming begging for longevity, the phonograph. London St. Mary's Hospital caught fire last night, resulting in the death of 20 patients. How is this going to tie in to our cases? There's got to be some evidence inside the body of the text itself, right? Watson Reuben Bell expressed deep regret over the hospital fire. Plans a Watson Group will compensate the victims. Mr. Bell further stated that Watson Group will allocate substantial funds to rebuild the hospital and enhance the hospital's fire prevention facilities. Could that be motive then? That the Watson Group was going to lose money fast, and so they wanted to do some IP theft of a student's research? Experimental project conducted by the hospital. Possible connections between the fire and the hospital's equipment, laboratory conditions, and the experimental project itself. Huh. An old photo. Yeah. That's Brian at the Wu's Ancestral Hall. That's the one that matched it. Author Stone Wu, so Sung Tao wrote this one. Let's see the photograph, because Brian was there.
无论是吴松涛说的话，还是这张合影，都表明哥哥
Yeah,
去
so
过
he's
吴
got
家
the
祠堂。
details. He could write about the details because he's seen it.
是
He's
我们
been.
家的旧祠堂啊，你是怎么晓得的？哦，哎呀，
The
肯
music
定
getting
是
more
国安
exciting
同你
here.
讲过。
而勾陈居士从祠堂的藻井获得灵感，写了《藻井之殇》。勾陈之乡，位居中央。勾陈，即是北极星。
I was going to look up Sinosura to see if it was like a different name that I might not know. Like how, what is it, Pleiades or whatever is also Subaru.
我怎会没想到？
See, had he gone by Polaris, there's oh, of course, Polaris at the pointed to by the Dipper.
他会一直待在北天际，无论离家多远，只要找到北极星，就能找到回家的方向。
Did he say that? Did I just miss that detail? If so, that might have made it obvious.
如果哥哥是勾陈居士，你应该明白这意味着什么。
The murderer is an acquaintance of Brian. Murderer is an avid reader. No, not true, because that book didn't really get published. Murderer is a casual reader. No, an acquaintance of Brian. Avid readers can't read what hasn't been published. Casual readers cannot read what hadn't been published. It is someone that Brian knew.
哥哥在伦敦的熟人，此人不但熟悉他的生活，也熟悉这部小说。你调查过他认识的每个人，这样的人存在吗？哥哥在伦敦的熟人不多，他们都有切实的不在场证明。你应该明白这意味着什么。
No, not that. Well, he can't be a casual reader, because again, it hasn't been published. Avid reader,
凶手是
perhaps?
藻井之殇的狂热读者，只有这样的人，才会试图重现作品中的杀人手法。但藻井之殇并未公开
Yeah.
发表。
So both those
也没有
options,
任何
casual
证明
or avid
这部
reader,
小
can't be
说在
right.
伦敦传播过。你应该明白这意味着什么。难道凶手偶然读到了小说，
That's what casual reader means?
而对哥哥产生了敌意？可是，小说既然从未公开发表过，这敌意又是从何而来的呢？你宁愿把时间浪费在这些牵强附会的假设上，也不愿面对真正的答案吗？真正的答案，你早就知道了。
Yeah, we knew it was Joseph, this was his name. Brian is the murderer. He killed himself. It's suicide. These can't be right, though. These aren't right. It's Joseph Iscariot. Jay Iscariot is the one who betrayed my brother. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that! These can't be right, though. I refuse to believe it's right. It's not true. There's no way it's true. It couldn't have possibly been Brian. Also, the presentation. The presentation in this game is phenomenal. I wish it had more moments like this. Objection! I still refuse to accept it.
哥哥，我明白了，问题从来都不是会不会，而是为什么。
Why he felt the need to kill himself? The pain he was in, perhaps?
仲平，
From the poisoning?
我们一起找出真相。
以本物之相，即本事之相，此地安顿于各处所。
Okay. So let's see, we got to review all this, huh? Distress telegram. Anonymous telegram at 2:05 p.m. on the day of the incident. The body was first discovered with police at 2:28. Did not receive the alarm. Why? Because they found the body. Oh. But there's like the 30-minute difference. No? Okay. 2 to 2:28 p.m. 2:28 was when it was discovered. The police discovered the body immediately. Right after Brian prepared the locked room. Is he suggesting Brian set all that up himself? Okay, telegraph machine. On the day of the incident. Very likely to be Brian. Well, the fact is, landlady saw no one else go in and out. Brian's wish for police discovery. That's why he went specifically to the Westminster station for Joseph, yeah? For this person. For Joseph. Once Wanted Joseph to investigate first. Exploration method to extract the brucine from Strychnos lux vomica. The italics didn't work, but that connects the body's contortion. It looks like strychnine, and it's highly related to strychnine and a similar effect, but it does not come out in the toxicology report for strychnine because it's not strychnine. But it's very coincidental that the effect is that similar, isn't it? Someone was surveilling her house, informed Brian about the situation. Missing book is a novel, right? No. I think so. There's nothing else to look at but these, so I wonder why I could zoom in and out. There's a missing book. Perhaps the new drug? The paper? No. So I can't go to old stuff that's already been connected. I can only go to things that have not been connected or new things. Hey, Swedish guy! How you doing? Is that a possum with pom-poms? A pom-possum, that is adorable. Poisoning by brucine, maybe that's the missing book? No. Wanted Joseph to investigate the scene first. Don't tell me that Brian poisoned himself to simply test out the effectiveness of a new poison, and since Joseph was related to his father's pharmaceutical stuff, say, hey Joseph, come check this out. Ugh! No, okay. No conclusion there. Wanted Joseph to investigate first. Can't connect to anything else here. Because Joseph was familiar? Did he tell Joseph about it? No. And it doesn't connect to the missing book either. Doesn't connect to here. The poisoning by Bruce. So was that to say he was poisoned before he came home then? I figured that explained how he got into his room already stressed out. But if he knew that he was going to be poisoned, if he knew that he was poisoned and about to die, what I don't get then is why make this super elaborate death trap around himself to lock himself in his room and then perhaps stab himself in his heart at his final moments when the pain got too great? Why deflect away from the poisoning? In desperation, already poisoned, under close surveillance, chose suicide. Send help immediately to his buddy Joseph. I still think Joseph is sus though. There's like an undercurrent in this game about Western conspiracies against poor innocent China struggling to become an industrial peer, right? There's industrial sabotage at the steelworks to ensure that the Western steel companies get advantageous contracts. There's a bunch of other things going on. There's a whole opium thing in the background. And so I figured that with Joseph Iscariot Bell literally being a J Iscariot, right-hand man of Brian to betray him, his father is Watson Bell with the pharmaceutical company, and now both of them are in Shanghai, either working their pharmaceuticals locally or working the legal system that heavily favors Westerners over Chinese, and that further and further erodes Chinese autonomy in their own jurisprudence. So you'd think that for this game and everything in it, that Joseph would be the one. Did Brian simply not know that Joseph is rotten? Or perhaps, is it a red herring and Joseph is actually a good guy the entire time, and not the devil walking with us? I thought it was super sus that Joseph was the first one on the scene, making it so that he had advantageous position to cover up anything that he didn't want made known. These guys all worked pharmaceuticals, or the daddy's pharmaceuticals, so Joseph would know about this cutting-edge research that Sung Tao was working on for his father. Because Joseph knows the story. Brian was bragging about some novel that he wrote that never got published. Yeah, which means that my previous conclusions that it was an avid reader or a casual reader who was an acquaintance of Brian works, because who else is gonna know the details? And that missing book is the book that Brian probably managed to get published in London, or at least he had his manuscript there. And then why is it missing? Because Joseph knows, because Joseph took it to obfuscate, because it turns out that he wasn't Brian's best friend after all, but the one who did the poison in the first place. The literal Judas Iscariot that Brian assumes to be his confidant and leaned on for help to suss out the truth of his poisoning, but was the greatest participant.
那本消失的书
Shen just refuses to see the truth.
智商的手稿，他被约瑟带走了，里面有哥哥留下的死亡遗言。
Achievement unlocked on Ride of the Web.
当年的案件，的确是哥哥亲手布置机关，将利刃刺入了自己的胸膛。
你终究是接受事实了。
怎么会这样？即便如此，那起案件仍然留下了许多疑团，其中最令我不解的是，约瑟，你明明比我更清楚命案现场与那本小说之间的关联。
Why'd you not bring it up in Joseph? What you trying to hide, Joseph? My brother trusted you. Was he an error in that?
有哥哥留给你的东西吧？你是哥哥最好的朋友，他临终前刻意将电报发到了肯辛顿警局，就是为了确保你能第一时间进入现场。约瑟，你还打算继续隐瞒吗？
That book probably got burned 3 years ago. It's scattered ashes in the Atlantic if Joseph is smart.
事实上，瞒着你是伯安的意思。
什么？
我与伯安是在柯南·道尔的书友会上认识。
Conan Darl.
他很喜欢柯南·道尔的小说，也曾尝试自己创作。这本笔记本里
装着他所有的手稿，P.1只给我看过。凿井之殇是我最喜欢的一篇。我们甚至在他的书房里还原过书中的轨迹。没想到，最后他竟用那种方式提醒我去看笔记本。
So that's why all those mechanisms are set up in his room. It's not just part of the murder apparatus, but they would play little murder games together and be like, hey Joseph, check this out. If I arrange things like this, you can make the key go under the door and into my dead hand. Isn't that so cool? If you make this paper lantern, it could drop a knife down. Isn't that neat? This almost makes them sound cute together. Almost.
笔记本里还有什么？除了小说手稿外，笔记本里还夹着一份关于高科检的研究报告。
Cocaine.
先生，高科这个名字，我好像听你提起过。
那是一种植物。哥哥在弗洛伊德的一篇文章中了解到高科，并研究了许多年。从研究报告看，他成功从植物高科中发现了一种新药。
Is this like
高科碱
off-brand
他想用这种
serial
药
number spelled off
来
code
抑
for
制
the
鸦片成瘾
censors?
后的戒断症状，开发出高效的戒烟药。很遗憾，这项研究最终未能成功。
是因为仙药不能有效抑制烟瘾吗？
恰恰相反，患者在使用新药后，很快就摆脱了对鸦片的依赖。
Then what's the problem?
但他们无一例外的对新药产生了强烈渴求。
Oh.
你是说，哥哥研究高科碱多年，最终做出的不是戒烟药，而是比鸦片更厉害的毒品？
We have good news. He developed
从
something to
不
get
按
them
留
off
下
the
的研究
opium.
资料来看，的确如此。
C17H21NO4. If I Google this, will it give me crocaine or a different cane? It gets me cane sugar. Cocaine. I can't believe Google has misspelled crocaine. So, I think we have new